Hey everyone, so it's the tiniest of Logans back, and we can say 2070 now. I seem to be getting to say that a lot lately. Now, the footage that you're going to see just in a second technically was something I made for a preview, but don't worry, at the end you'll get all the review stuff. Basically, I made it and then Nvidia told me I wasn't allowed to upload it because other people hadn't got cards and stuff already. Yeah, I was ecstatic about it, but it's kind of worked in my favour because due to the driver being late, like silly late, I think we wasted like a day and a half waiting for it in the end. It's meant to try and get 2 cards tested. It's been incredibly tight on time. So to save time, rather than refilming all that stuff again, just so that you can hear me say I'm not allowed to talk about performance, we're going to reuse it. But don't worry, get past that and then I can talk to you about all the cores, the performance, the price, and all of those sort of things that you'll hear with a main review. So this was just to clarify why things might be a little bit confusing over the next few minutes. But bear with me and come back towards the end. Okay, so the launches are coming thick and fast over the next week or two. And I've just had delivery of the MSI 2070 Gaming Z. I've also got the Armour as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus our look today on the Gaming Z, which is the more top end of the cards. But because I've got them both here, I can kind of show you the bits that they've upgraded for the Z by comparing them, at least quickly, to the what I would say is the lower end of the custom looking cards, the Armour. Now there's a lot I'm not allowed to talk about, like core count and all that sort of stuff, but you will be able to find it online. And I'm also not allowed to show you it powered up. So it's just staying within the realms of the NDA. Technically I'm not even sure whether I'm meant to be showing you this much. But anyway, so I'm chucking a risky video out there just so that we can have a look, because I'm not talking to you about performance and stuff, so it's all good. Now, the card itself, you can see on the box it looks kind of meaty, but then when you actually get down to the nitty-gritty of it, it is very meaty. It looks rather nice indeed. When we put it kind of, yeah, slightly better angle. Obviously, I could cut things all nicely, but you know, it's not my way. Now they do come with the plastic cover on it here. Now the plastic cover, it's just a sticker, and it's just to let you know that it says down here that the fan might not spin. So you have to take it off, and then it does say down the bottom, fan might not spin, don't worry. And that's just to kind of calm people down a little bit. So, differences between them actually start quite soon. Now I need to try and get this balanced quite well, but they start pretty much straight away. And the Z has the Torx 3 fans on, and when you zoom in on the Torx 3 fans, essentially got the little extra Venturi blades or little grooves on them. But when you go across to the other fan, you can see that they're a lot plainer. Also, if you focus in on the actual heat sink itself behind, you can see that they almost look like they're woven, but it's because they're semicircles, and they're staged and they raise at different points. So it's really difficult to get a good view of the fins themselves. But I'm hoping from there you can see that they're like little semicircles on the top. They're not bent, they're completely straight. They've just got little waves on the top. And where you have a wave that's at its highest point on one blade, the very one next to it is at its lowest point. So they're slightly different. Whereas when you pan across to the Armour, you can see they're just flat. You've got some little indentations in some of them, but they're pretty much just straight, flat fins. And when you go over onto the Armour, you can see they're a lot more complex. And it goes right the way from one end of the card to the other end of the card as well. Something else that I did notice with the Z on the bottom, you can see that you've got the capacitor and then the choke in contact with the heatsink. But then when you get to this section here, there's a big flat section, and that's where all the MOSFETs will be. Whereas with the Armour above, essentially the choke and the capacitor are in the same sort of placement against the fins, but with the Armour, it doesn't. The MOSFETs don't come in contact with this bit at all. They're actually underneath this. So, and it's quite difficult for me to be able to get the camera to show you the pink thermal pad, but it's underneath the black section. So it doesn't actually come into the in contact with the main heatsink itself. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, but what it does mean is that the Z has a much higher quality cooler. So having those in direct contact means that you can keep the MOSFETs down considerably more because it's in direct contact with those fins. There's no heat pipes or vapor chamber or anything like that. But you can see direct onto that and then the fin straight on top of it. With the Armour, these fins don't touch that black section at all. You can see though that they've both got a 6 and an 8 pin, and it's really just down to a much higher quality cooler. And the other thing that I did notice with the Z is that it too does have some metal plate that does run around, but you can see it's bolted right the way through the card. So it's connected on both sides, and technically this part here is the main heatsink, not just a little thin brace. So it does feel considerably more rigid, and you can also see here as well, the heatsink actually comes out onto this section of the card as well, with all that extra bracing. So it's a very firm card. Now there is, like I said, there is a brace that goes around and it goes over the top like they normally would. Round the back you get 3 display ports, a HDMI which is here, and then a USB-C, standard, very much like the 2080s and everything like that. Can actually see that dual brushed, and it's dual direction brushed backplate as well that I saw on the 2080 and the 2080 Ti that I got from them. They were the Trio X cards. So this, although it's the Z, it does feel like the Trio, but with 2 fans. I'm not allowed to show you it lit up, or at least I'm pretty damn certain I'm not allowed to show you it lit up because I wasn't allowed to with the previews on the 2080 and 2080 Ti. But there is an RGB section around here, around here, around here. This section here technically does RGB as well, but it's not particularly bright. So if you're looking for a card that's going to be all glary straight on the side, it's not going to be that good. If you're going to get something that you're going to get yourself a case where you've got a vertical GPU or something, it's definitely a bit better suited to that. Also, it does come with a big support brace, and essentially what this does, you bolt it into the back of the case and then it helps keep the card upright, and it does then end up making it look significantly more bulky. When we've tested these in the past, they can hold them up nicer, that's all well and good, but it's not something I would say is essential. I think it's more something that they're starting to add in because of people maybe not being that gentle when they move their case around for cleaning or something like that, and then people blaming the weight of the card on the fact that they dropped their case or like put their case down a little bit too heavy, and then the motherboard takes a bit of a slam on the PCI Express slot. But considering I'm not allowed to tell you the price, so we're not allowed to consider the price, I'll say that it's a fairly aggressive price. It's probably a bit lower than I was expecting compared to some of the prices of the 2080s, but I think that looks fairly chunky, it looks fairly aggressive. I think it's going to look rather nice when it's all lit up as well, depending on where you're going to play with it. These kind of points at the front are making me think kind of like Batmobile and Aventador sort of things as well. So it's a fairly aggressive design. It's definitely down that kind of gamery edge, but without screaming out with like loads of RGBs and all that sort of stuff. So this is going to be, as far as I'm aware at the moment, I think this is going to be the top end MSI 2070. Review will be live on the 16th, and I'm literally not allowed to show you anything before then. I've not even got drivers at the moment. I may have to pull this video down as well. We never know. So hopefully you found it helpful with me trying to show you some of the differences between the Armour and the Z, so you can understand where the extra, I think it's 60 quid, ends up going. And I don't think that's going to be too much information for you to say that there's £60 difference between those two cards. At the end of the day, if you're not that fussed, you're going to end up getting a cheaper one. But if you are fussed, you want a slightly better cooler, know that your MOSFET's going to be slightly better cooled, a little bit more aggressive styling on it as well, better fans, which means they're going to be quieter, you end up going for the Z. And I don't think the price between the two is that bad when you think about it. It just depends what they cost, you know, what this one costs in the first place, which I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to say. So I'm just going to love you and leave you. Please understand, I'm trying to do this to give you as much information as I'm allowed to. Don't go saying I should have given you review stuff and I should have told you about cores. I could be in trouble for telling you this much. So this has been the tiniest of Logans. Check back soon. Lots and lots of reviews coming. So thank you for bearing with me with that little bit of footage that I showed you before. The reason why I wanted to use it is actually quite a good way to compare the two cards. Now the card that we are going to be focusing on in the graphs at least, because I have to mark at least one of them out, is going to be the Z. But one of the things I would say is give the Armour a good look yourself. Because if you look for it in the graphs, it is incredibly close. And one of the reasons why I say that is because the Armour that I've got is the plain Armour. It's actually the one that Nvidia want me to draw attention to because it is only £459. That's the MSRP, so that's the manufacturer's suggested retail price. So this isn't the overclock. They do an overclocked one that's £10 more. I'll talk about that. But then the Gaming Z comes in at £509.99. So you're looking at £50 more. Now, when we get to the review side of it, and we can do all the comparisons after you've seen the performance stuff that I want to talk to you about, we can then weigh up the price differences, the aesthetics, and all of that sort of stuff. So that is my explanation side of things. We can get on to the 2070 overall sort of things. Now, there will be Founders Editions from Nvidia, like the 2080 Ti and the plain 2080 available, but for the press we're not getting any for launch, or at least I'm not, and I don't think they're going to have any for the UK. So they're calling it an AIB launch, which is why I have the MSI card straight away. I will have other brands coming in later on, but these were the only ones that I could get in time to bring you a video today. So I'll bring the little flashy thing up underneath, do you know what I mean, so you can have a look, so that you can compare the difference between the cores, the Tensor cores, ray tracing cores, and also the VRAM. Now the thing that I was quite surprised about with the 2070 is it does have the same amount of VRAM as the 2080. And there's obviously quite a big price difference between the two, but obviously there's lots of other differences as well with the amount of CUDA cores and stuff like that. But it was just the VRAM side of things, because we do know that some games can really chew through that VRAM, even if you've not necessarily got the grunt to be able to chew through lots of anti-aliasing to do it. Now, with the two, and the temperatures, and yes, I am trying to whiz through, because believe it or not, the NDA for me today is at 2 PM and it's currently 10:30 AM, and I'm literally chasing my tail like a naughty dog trying to catch up. So temperatures were pretty good. You can see that they do come in below like the Founders Edition 2080, but they are aftermarket cards, so we would expect that. One of the things I will say with temperatures is that the Z was surprisingly, when you first look at it, a little bit warmer by a couple of degrees. But the one thing I do need to say is that the Z does have a slightly higher clock, but it's also running a slightly higher power limit as well. But it's significantly, as far as I'm concerned, significantly quieter. So because it's quieter and because it's got a higher power limit, it's actually got quite a lot, sort of like holding it back. It's probably the best way that I can say. You can easily get those temperatures down, but because they've tuned it to be slightly quicker and they've tuned it to be slightly quieter, that's why the temperatures are slightly higher. But you can make your own mind up with that. I don't think a couple of degrees is really much to argue about, but we will power through. And with the power testing, they generally don't use a lot. And one of the things you do need to remember with my graphs is this is an entire system in the graphs as well. It's not just the GPU, but all of them were tested the same way. And when you look down at the Armour, only 338 watts from the wall. So you could actually run this from a 450 watt power supply and not sweat it. And that's with a 2011 6-core processor as well. So it's actually rather nuts. Clock speeds, I'll pop up. Now the thing to pay attention to, as I keep trying to explain, are the averages. Averages are the most important ones. We don't care about peak. That's only what noobs talk about. It's all about those averages. Now the Armour, the Z did have a slightly better average overall, both with the clock and out of the box, but that is because of that power limit that I spoke to you about before. But with the, you can get a fairly decent overclock out of the Armour, and it doesn't particularly suffer that badly, but the extra phases that you get with the Z carry through, and that's how it managed to just best it in the OC scanner, the manual overclock, and at stock as well. Now, when we come to graphs and games, you can go and have a look at the OC3D website, because there are a lot more of them there. I just pick out a few to be able to show you here. You can see with things like the new games like Shadow of the Tomb Raider, you've only really got the new cards and the highlights of the old cards in there. If you want to go back and look at some of the older games, the graphs are absolutely chuffing enormous. And that's why I say go and have a look at the Overclock 3D website. Now, one of the things I would say with these graphs that I'm just going to pop you up, because we've got Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is up now. Then we've got Forza Horizon, which, to be honest with you, is such a pretty game. It's one of the few games I'm happy is in the test suite at the moment. It's a shame that it's the benchmark and we keep ending up losing an hour playing the actual game while it's running. But anyway, and then the Final Fantasy one is it's a benchmark that Nvidia sent, but some people have got confused and they think Nvidia have sent the results. What I mean is it's a benchmark that Nvidia send, then we can run on whatever we like, which is why you can see an AMD card in there. All right, it is fairly near the bottom, but you get the point. And the reason why we've got this Final Fantasy benchmark is it is something that we can run with DLSS and things like that. So we'll chuck it to the side and I can recap this and talk to you about it relatively quickly. The price is pretty good. It's definitely on the right side of the market, I think, personally, because obviously there was a massive kind of fallout about the 2080 and the 2080 Ti prices. Now, with the cards coming in around this sort of price, we're still going to be playing the game of, yes, later ray tracing, yes, later DLSS. We're still going to be doing that. But for the price and the performance, the grunt is still there. They're cool, they're calm, and they're collected. And the best way that I can say about what I've seen of the 2070s so far is it's a very good 1440p card. When you start talking about 4K, if you guys are looking at one of these for 4K and you think you're going to be able to overclock it and make a big difference to your 4K stuff, it's pretty much at that point is architecturally limited. The overclocks don't really make a great deal of difference to 4K, but they do make a decent difference when you go down to something like 1440p or 1080. Like I said, I personally see someone having one of these, a nice 1440p screen, maybe an i5 or a Ryzen 5, but 6-core processor. It's a nice mix without being too expensive, and you couple those parts together and you're going to end up having a pretty epic gaming rig with a nice 1440p monitor. Some of the really stressful AAA games you might not be able to run on like Super Ultra, and you might need to knock some of the anti-aliasing down to be able to get everything to play sweetly and keep your frames per second up, but it's still, for the money, going to give you an incredible gaming experience. Now, I would say that the fact that the Armour does come in a little bit cheaper, for those of you out there that literally want something that's going to just work, be pleasing, do the job, and you are going to be tight on your budget, this is probably the one out of the two for you. But when you do come up to the Z, to be honest with you guys, this is the one you smash the power limit up, you play around with the offset a little bit, and it's going to be that little bit cooler. It's going to give you the more aesthetically pleasing side of things because of the RGB. It's a little bit fatter. As you've seen in the preview bit that I did before, the VRMs are in direct contact with the cooler, so you've got the possibility, because we can never say outright that this one's going to be the one that's bomb-proof. It should last you a little bit longer, might take that little bit more abuse with long-term overclocking, that sort of thing. For the extra 50 quid, this is going to be the one for what I would say is going to be the power enthusiasts, but without a limited budget. Do I think it's worth an extra 50 quid? For the way that the cooler's designed and the noise, slightly better overclocking, that sort of thing, I would say 50 quid's not that bad. But if you're thinking 50 quid, then clearly, you know, we've still got something on the table for you. Yes, the VRMs aren't in direct contact on this one, but it's still going to do a fairly good job because you have got the fan pretty much straight above it. This one is just that one where you're kind of stepping away from, let's say, the Mustang, and then you're going up to the Ford GT. That's the difference. It's going to be completely up to you, and I don't think a £50 step is that bad when you consider some of the prices that we saw with the 2080 Ti difference being hundreds difference from the basic one up to the most expensive one. And that's the other thing to think about, peeps. This is pretty much going to be the most expensive MSI 2070 because it's the Z. It's not even the Gaming X, it's the Gaming Z. This is the kind of like flagship one. I don't think we'll see a Lightning 2070. So this is the bomb-proof one, the absolute top end one for 50 quid. I don't think that we're likely to see some other brands bringing theirs in at £510, let's put it that way. Don't forget with the Z as well, you do get the big bridge that comes with it, although to be honest with you, if this was mine, I'd probably end up painting it or wrapping it in like DNOT carbon fibre or something like that. So I don't think it's that bad. So I have cobbled them together to be able to do them today. If you want a better in-depth look at the Armour, there is a preview going live on Rush Kit today, so you're going to get 2 videos today. But that's it. They've both won awards because, to be honest with you, this is the gamer's choice because it does the job out the box, cool, calm, collected. Nothing to moan about it. The shroud is plastic, but it is kind of nice. I like the fact they've put a little bit of white on there just to kind of make it not so plain and boring. Let's face it, when it's in your case, if you've got a bit of RGB, the white will get picked out of the lights and it'll look kind of nice. And then you've got the bomb-proof kind of hardcore UGG version over here. And this one I would give the Enthusiast award. And the Enthusiast doesn't have to mean ridiculously expensive, but Enthusiast because the Enthusiasts are going to understand the fact that it's got slightly better power circuitry, it's got a better cooler, it's got better fans. It should last them a little bit longer, or at least what I would do, take more abuse, because this is the one that you just treat like a naughty girl, and this is the one that you have to treat really nicely. So there we go, over and done with, lovely jubbly, nice and quick, cracking cards. Let's get some more in so we can populate these graphs and finally start telling the difference between them all. Don't forget to come back Friday. We've got another big NDA.